Well, thank you very much, and thanks to Marla and NFID for this great evening. It's my honor and privilege to introduce recently knighted Baron Dr. Peter Piot, MD, PhD, as the recipient of the 2017 Jimmy and Rosalynn Carter Humanitarian Award. This award, established 20 years ago by the NFID Board of Directors, is named for former President and Mrs. Carter, who were its initial recipients, that acknowledge their lifelong commitment to improving the quality of life for people worldwide. And it was in this spirit that they created the Carter Foundation in Atlanta, a nonprofit, nonpartisan organization with the clear mission: wage peace, fight disease, and build hope. In this audience of infectious disease paparazzi, Peter Piot needs no introduction. But in preparation for this event, I sought out several who Peter worked with across his career to get some insights and a few insider stories to share with you tonight. I'm sure Peter will be relieved that I'm going to stick with the insights part and leave the insider stories for another time. But earlier this week, as I mentioned to Peter, I spoke with Joel Bremen about Peter's early days as a young investigator in the fog of war, trying to understand a new lethal disease that the world would later come to know as Ebola. Joel was not only on the ground with Peter during this investigation, but became part of his family, and one of his many Peter's star-studded mentors, which includes King Holmes and Stan Falco and many others. Those of you who know Joel know that he is succinct and precise, and he was succinct and precise when he summarized Peter as an adventurer with substance. I'll get to some of the substance part in a second, but I couldn't resist highlighting the adventure part, because Peter's story, for those of you who've read his autobiography, it reads like an action hero, with tales of tending to the morbidly ill in remote villages and opting out of a helicopter transport as it went off into jet black skies in a brewing storm, a helicopter never to return. But given his Belgian heritage, of course, Tintin and his adventures were part of Peter's childhood. And I have to believe that had Tintin been a doctor and not a reporter, he may have been created in Peter's image, or vice versa. My co-conspirator Heidi and I looked long and hard for Tintin, disease detective, and came pretty close. Fortunately, and when you look at the picture of Peter and the picture of Tintin, I think that you'll see the resemblance. So we think there's something to this Belgian heritage. It's impossible to read his autobiography, which is called No Time to Lose, in a single breath. But if you read it, it will leave you breathless. In almost every paragraph, you can sense Peter's compulsion to do as much as he can to fight disease and build hope. And this embodies the overarching quest of global health, that there's too much to do, so there is no time to lose. And with Ebola back in the Congo, I'm sure that Peter's bags are packed, but at least he's going to stay with us for dessert. Peter's scientific contributions are well known in Ebola, in his work on STDs, and in AIDS. But perhaps what may not be as well appreciated by the science audience is that in each of these areas, and frankly in everything Peter is focused on, comes equal parts disease fighting and humanitarian compassion, as the diseases that has marked his incredible career are those that were challenging both scientifically and socially, because stigma was often part of these diseases, which meant that loneliness and isolation added to the suffering of the disease itself. Peter's global impact in public health comes from the confluence of his many talents, where he's been able to effectively combine scientific excellence, policy strategy, strong communication, and global activism. So back to the language that inspired the Carters: he fought disease and built hope. He's always done that, and he does that every day. Peter's advocacy was a driving force which helped to raise AIDS to the highest political levels. He was instrumental, together with Ambassador Richard Holbrooke, in organizing the first ever debate on a health issue, AIDS, at the UN Security Council in 2000, and a year later was a principal driver in orchestrating the UN General Assembly's special session on HIV/AIDS, the first ever session of its kind on a health issue. That's now recognized that, along with the launch of PEPFAR, were the tipping points in the AIDS epidemic. I'm sure that many of you have been to Peter's school, the Lundell School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine, which he now directs. It's an institution known worldwide for setting the direction of global health and for attracting current and future public health leaders and researchers. And if you've been there, I'm sure you've looked at the top and seen the names on the frieze of the exterior of the school that represent the greats in this field. I can't list them all. There are 23, and that's part of the quiz. But among them, Edward Jenner, Louis Pasteur, Robert Koch, Sir Ronald Ross, Sir Patrick Manson, and Walter Reed. But who else do you know who was named by Prince Henry when reflecting on that iconic moment, and you've all seen that picture, when his mother, Princess Diana, held the hands of a man infected with AIDS, but she didn't wear a glove? As Harry said, thanks to the work of leaders in the fight against HIV, people like Nelson Mandela, Sir Elton John, the brave activists of TAG and ACT UP, people like Dr. Peter Piot, and like my mother, Princess Diana, we have made huge progress. Nelson Mandela, Elton John, Princess Diana, Peter Piot, Tintin. NFID selected a quite worthy recipient for this year's Jimmy and Rosalynn Carter Award. Congratulations, Peter.